name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Well, believe it or not, this is the 5th Sunday of Lent, and next Sunday is Palm Sunday. Can you believe that already? Easter Sunday is 2 weeks from today. Seems like it's coming a little earlier, quickly. And because on Palm Sunday, the bulk, if not all, of the teaching or the homily that morning is our reading together the Passion narrative. That means I have to finish up our teaching on forgiveness this morning. So that's our job, is to wrap up this little bit of teaching that we're doing on the process of forgiveness. Last week we introduced the topic and we noted a few things just by way of review. We noted that because forgiveness happens in a human context and in a relationship between two or more human beings, and because human beings are complex critters, therefore it's very likely that the process of forgiveness is also going to be at times complex, difficult, and it may take a little bit of time. It may not come quickly. It's not like just flipping a light switch somewhere. We also noted, painfully I might add, that it begins with self-examination. The process begins with my willingness to identify and own those mental habits I have, those things I say to myself over and over again, that shore up my own self-righteousness. We referred to it as self-protective self-righteousness. And then we closed out with thinking together a little bit about our mutual interdependency, our common humanity, that I have this common humanity with the person who injured me or attacked me or hurt me in some way. And we referred to the South African tradition of Ubuntu, talked about by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, as being this tradition of essentially saying, I am who I am because you are who you are. In other words, we're connected. We form each other. We influence each other. And this interconnected web has everything to do with who I am. So today we're going to look at 3 additional steps in the process of forgiveness. And the first one is curiosity. Curiosity. Thomas Hobbes once said that curiosity is the lust of the mind. Now, what did he mean by that? He meant that we are by nature curious beings. We are the species that loves to learn, that loves to discover, that loves to go places we haven't gone before. And we love the fact that we love that. We're the species that loves that and loves knowing that we love that. It is in our DNA, it's in our very nature to want to learn something new, to discover something that we haven't discovered before. There's something life-giving about learning. There's something energizing about coming across new insight and new perspective. That makes curiosity a very powerful tool in the process of forgiveness. Now, we're going to talk about curiosity as part of the process of forgiveness at 2 levels. And the first level is what I'm calling the hard data level. Hard data level is the level that is concerned with facts, figures, and timelines. So, at this level, I allow my curiosity to run amok. I allow myself permission to be insatiably curious about all the factual details around the event in which I was injured. Okay? Where were we when this happened? Me and this person who hurt me, or this person who attacked me. What was the context? What were the details of that context? What was going on in our lives and in the world in the minutes prior to the attack? What was going on days before, and maybe even months or years before? What is it? What kind of slant or understanding does this other person have of those events? So you can see that we could go on and on and on, but the idea is that we release our curiosity to try to understand everything we can possibly get at the chain of events that preceded the attack or the injurious moment. Now this idea is kind of at the core of the Project for Deeper Understanding. I make a little speech at the beginning of every project forum. And the speech goes something like this. We have gathered here tonight in this place in order to practice learning from and listening to, or listening to and learning from, the person or the people with whom we most adamantly disagree. We're not here to win. We're not here to put somebody down. We're not here to outsmart somebody. What we're here for is to get really curious about this person with whom we passionately disagree on this topic, whatever the topic is. And I'm going to hit the pause button and stick in an advertisement here. On Tuesday night, April 5th, we're going to have a Project for Deeper Understanding public forum on the Public Lands Initiative. Okay? Who gets to control the land that is geographically inside of Utah? Is it the federal government or the state? And we've got panelists from the environmental community, and we're actively recruiting panelists from the office of Representative Chavez and also Representative Bishop. Okay, so we're going to gather, and that night I will get up and I'll make my little speech. That if you hear something that makes you crazy in the course of the evening, if you hear something that makes your blood boil, if you hear something that you passionately in your toenails disagree with, don't get mad, get curious. Don't get mad, get curious. Ask yourself, how is it that this other person sitting across from me, who is obviously a good person, who's intelligent, how is it possible that they could look at the same thing I'm looking at and come to completely different conclusion? Just get really curious about that. Okay, so once we have engaged our minds and our hearts at the level of hard data curiosity, that allows us to move to the next, and I think a lot more difficult level. It's difficult because it's counterintuitive. The next level, if you can get there, is the level of empathy for your perpetrator. Empathy for the person who hurt you. Now, what does that mean? Well, you've gotten interested and curious about the facts, figures, and timelines leading up to the injurious event. But you don't really know yet, you don't really have an understanding of why the attack occurred until you put yourself in your perpetrator or attacker's shoes. Atticus Finch, in the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, says that you don't really know a man until you've gotten inside of his skin and walked around for a while. That's a nice working definition of empathy. But empathy is so much more hard, so much difficult, so much harder than data collection, because empathy requires that you move toward the person, not away. Right? So if somebody hurts you, injures you, accuses you, attacks you, your natural impulse is not going to be to move toward them. It's going to be to move away from them, to protect yourself from them. So this is how empathy in this context is so counterintuitive. But to do empathy, to be empathic, to get inside the shoes of this person who just hurt you, you have to be able to imagine what their life is like. You have to be curious about what they were feeling at the time of the attack and what their emotional state was leading up to the attack. In other words, what was going on inside of them, in their mind and heart, in the moments, the hours, and maybe the days and years leading up to their attack upon you. What was their life experience? What were they experiencing not only in the moment of the argument, but in the moments leading up to the argument? What you want to try to do is, as fully as you possibly can, see the world, experience the world, feel the world just like they feel it and experience it. Now that requires that you move toward them in a spirit of real love. This is the New Testament kind of love. This is hard love, right? Because you're going to move toward them, you're going to try to experience what they experience and feel what they feel, not in order to gain moral superiority over them. This isn't a gambit so that you get leverage. It's just not another way of passing moral judgment on this other person. It's an authentic, heartfelt desire to try to understand what they were feeling and experiencing that may have led to the attack. Not easy at all. But I think it's absolutely essential in the forgiveness process. Okay, so then we come to the last step, which is prayer. And it's, it's not certainly appropriate to say last but not least. We come to the step that I'm calling prayer or blessing. So we just as a little bit of review, right? We started out with noticing the difficult complexity of human relationships. We moved to a self-examination where we own our own desire for self-protective self-righteousness. We celebrated our common humanity. We allowed ourselves to get very curious about the facts, figures, and timelines. We have tried our best now to practice empathy, to feel what they felt, to experience what they experienced in the moments leading up to the hurtful event. The sort of icing on the cake, if you will, or maybe the thing that holds it all together, is a spiritual bias toward blessing. Again, very counterintuitive. Comes right out of the teaching of Jesus to love your enemies and to bless those who persecute you. Remember him saying that? We may not want to remember that he said that, but he said that. So here's the simple exercise. It's really a matter of practice. It's the old saying, fake it till you make it. You're not going to start out feeling this way, right? You're going to start out angry, hurt, fantasies of revenge, all that, right? That's just your humanity. But here's the practice. If you're anything like me, when somebody has hurt you, and I hope you're not like me. I mean, I really do. But if you are like me, and somebody has really hurt you, they've hurt your feelings, they've attacked you, they've accused you, the memory of that event is going to intrude in your day over and over again in the days that follow. You might be reading a book about something completely unrelated, and boom, here comes the intrusive memory. You might be driving somewhere, and boom, here comes the memory and all that feeling. You get flooded with all those painful emotions all over again. Every time that happens, this is the exercise. Every time that happens, whether it happens once a day or 100 times a day, every time it happens, you say, bless and keep, and then you say the name of the person who hurt you. Bless and keep Sam. Bless and keep Sally. May Sally experience joy, peace, happiness, and success today and tomorrow. That little prayer. Bless and keep Sally, and may she experience joy, peace, happiness, and success today and tomorrow. And you say that every time you think of it. Every time you remember any part of the incident or this other person, you utter that little blessing. Now, what does that do? Well, it's kind of magical. I mean, it really is, in the sense that if you do this practice routinely over time, it will act as a lubricant for forgiveness. It literally greases the rails, if you will. And it'll liberate you and free you up to be better at practicing the other steps of forgiveness. Okay? It'll set you free to do the spiritual work that you need to do in order to get to the end of the journey, which is to really being able to authentically let go and forgive. Okay? So I will pray for you on your journey. I hope you'll pray for me on mine. And I hope we can hold hands along the way. In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.